morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Despierta Brownsville. Buenos días y bienvenidos. I'm excited to give everyone a very warm welcome this beautiful sunny morning to our second Despierta Brownsville of the year. My name is Esme Villarreal, and I am your very proud president and CEO of your Brownsville Chamber of Commerce. As a member-driven business organization whose principal mission is to advance the business interests of its members through leadership, civic engagement, promotion, support, and advocacy, the Brownsville Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and its staff welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. Today, we have the great opportunity to hear about the great things happening at the Brownsville Navigation District, Port of Brownsville. We're excited to welcome all of our audience this morning. Thank you for joining us live on Facebook and also those that have joined us through Zoom. Today's topic of discussion is how the Port of Brownsville has responded to COVID-19 and what the outlook for the remainder of 2020 looks like. Today, we have the great honor to welcome to Despierta Brownsville a great friend and colleague and of course supporter of your chamber, Mr. Eduardo Campirano. He's the Board Director and CEO. But before we begin our program and introduce our moderator for today, I want to invite everyone to join us to submit your questions either via the chat through Zoom or through Facebook. We are trying our best to accommodate and make sure that we allocate time at the end of the program to make sure that we address your questions to Mr. Campirano. We ask, of course, that you remain respectful of all time at all times, and of course, respect the time that we have allocated towards the end of the program. Again, we're very excited to continue to bring this type of platforms to educate our community of what's happening, of course, in our beautiful city of Brownsville, but the great projects that are in existing and of course are to come that will generate and trigger an economic impact, positive one, of course, and also job creation. So it is with great pleasure also to welcome and introduce to you our chairwoman of the board, Ms. Maribel Bach.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning as we continue to adapt to our new normalcy and grateful for your continuous support to your chamber. We value your contributions. Do know that thanks to your loyalty and membership, we continue to serve our business community, and we will celebrate 83 years of being in business in July. We're really excited about that. Before I introduce Eddie, there is a video. It's capital infrastructure improvements for the port that will play, and shortly after I will introduce Eddie. Okay, thank you for that, Danielle. Your Brownsville Chamber of Commerce is pleased to be an organization that can provide the community a platform to address and educate on important matters concerning our beautiful city and region. This morning, we have the opportunity to hear from Mr. Eduardo Campirano, Port Director and CEO of the Port of Brownsville. Mr. Campirano is a Port Director and CEO of Port of Brownsville. He was appointed back in May of 2007 and is responsible for the operations of the only U.S. deep water seaport located directly on the U.S.-Mexico border. During his tenure, the Port of Brownsville has improved its financial position by increasing its cash reserves, issued debt for infrastructure improvements, undertaken major and infrastructure improvements and repairs, and has attracted port-related investments through public and private sector partnerships. Mr. Campirano's public service extends to his active participation in numerous civic, maritime, industry organizations and committees. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Mr. Eddie Campirano.
Hello, Eddie, can you hear us? I believe we're encountering some technical difficulties. If you give us a quick second, I'm sure we're able to connect shortly. We do appreciate your patience. As we all know, as we try to adapt to these new ways of conducting business, we always encounter these type of course, challenges throughout the the different webinars and initiatives. But we do appreciate you continue to, of course, be following us and seeing us live on social media and through Zoom. Let's see. There we go. Mr. Campirano,
Can you unmute?
I think we have
There you go.
Good morning, Mr. Campirano.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Let me begin. Maribel, Esme, thank you for this opportunity. It's always great and exciting for us to be able to talk, at least it is to me, about the Port of Brownsville and what's going on out here. Let me begin by saying congratulations to Tony Rodriguez, your new chair-elect for the board. I think you got a good one. We certainly will continue to support Tony's efforts and support those efforts of the Chamber of Commerce. You all do valuable work in our community, and we appreciate the services that you do promote and provide to our fair city. So thank you both very much. Great to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Campirano. We're true supporters of our Port of Brownsville. We truly believe that our port is a port that works. We're always excited to hear the great projects that are in existence and, of course, the future projects that are to come to the area. I remember seeing this video when we had, the opportunity months ago, and, we see statistics of, future projects and, of what back then, a couple months ago, were to come to the area. We know that through COVID-19, we haven't stopped working. And, as you and I and Maribel were speaking right before we went live, we should, in your own words, as you said, we should always continue to remain very optimistic of the future, of course, of our port and, of course, the future overall of the city of Brownsville and the impact that the port has in our region throughout the lower Rio Grande Valley. I know that, that video highlights the importance of, existing projects. But with that said, we've had the ability to, collaborate many times with the Port of Brownsville. We see the impact. We understand that our port is one of our top employers as well for the area. Would you give us a I guess highlight or update of, how was 2019 for Port of Brownsville?
Well, 2019 was an equally good year. 2018 was a record year for the Port of Brownsville in terms of tonnage, throughput through the port, as well as operating revenues. And of course, this is a very labor-intensive industry, and the way the port runs is as an enterprise fund. In other words, we have to generate the revenue necessary to operate, as well as to reinvest in port infrastructure. So we've been doing quite well over the last few years, and 2019 was no different. Again, we had a very comparable year in terms of cargo throughput, but we also had a new record year in terms of revenue for the Port of Brownsville, in terms of operating revenue, and that is good. The video highlighted some of the things that we have done and are doing at the port. And, you know, that kind of activity is to continue to provide the infrastructure necessary for our users, for our customers, for our tenants here at the port, and to allow them to be successful as well. So we're excited that we can continue to do that. The investment in the bulk cargo dock gives us an opportunity to work with West Plains to essentially revitalize and bring back the access to the grain elevator and to the port, to international markets. There was a time when that was a very, very busy grain elevator, both in terms of serving area growers and exporting of commodities to foreign markets. And we are working hard to be there again. And again, the improvements into the bulk cargo dock provide that, coupled with the improvements that West Plains is making in the facilities. And so that's exciting for us. The construction of oil dock number 6, I mean, that is a significant project. You know, that is a roughly $28 million project. And that project was actually built just simply to continue to support the growth of our customers and our tenants as it relates to the refined product market. You know, that's what we do. We provide the services and the infrastructure necessary to move large volumes of gasoline, large volumes of refined products, whether it's lubricants, whether it's diesel fuel, that not only serve the region, but also serve northern Mexico and beyond. So just to be able to keep up with the demand for services, that project isn't tied to any new project. This just allows us to keep up. And, you know, the best kind of growth that you can always appreciate is organic growth. So when our tenants are growing and investing in capital, we need to be able to support them by giving them the tools to succeed. And that project does that. Same thing with the road improvements. We obviously are responsible for the roads in and inside the port, and we invest heavily in keeping them up to grade. And we do a lot of commercial truck traffic, so it's important that that infrastructure is in place to be able to move commodities and people safely and efficiently in and out of the port. We made an investment this past year and received 2 new mobile harbor cranes. These are cranes that are necessary, again, to continue to support the throughput movement of steel through the Port of Brownsville, primarily in the area of slab steel. You know, no other port in the United States moves more feedstock in terms of steel into Mexico than the Port of Brownsville. And that speaks to a lot about how we serve the region, how we are so critical to the region, and certainly very dependent on cross-border trade. This is just another example. And those cranes have also been very, very important to us, as last year and all of this year, we've been very heavily involved in wind blade commodities, windmills, whether they're blades, whether the nacelles, whether the cones, the tower sections. And that has been particularly very, very important to us to be able to grow in that market. And you can see, if you're in and around the port and driving on Interstate I-69 East, you can see large pieces of wind components moving. Well, those are going not only to areas of the valley, to areas of northern Mexico, but they're even going to areas outside the state of Texas. So the ability to serve that market is very important to us, and those cranes are critical for us to be able to do so. Um, we work with Keppel Amphels. Keppel Amphels is doing the construction of deep draft vessels, Jones Act vessels. And, that's not only important to our region, but we're the only ones in the state of Texas that are doing this kind of work. So not only is it great for the region, it's actually great for the state of Texas. And in an endeavor to support that effort, we partnered with them and also with the EDA to build a construction pad where they can assemble those vessels. And it's quite exciting to see that. Those vessels must be delivered. There's two of them. One will be completed and delivered in the fall of this year. And the second vessel will be completed and delivered possibly late first quarter or early second quarter of next year. And that will create an opportunity, hopefully will be for more deep draft vessel construction and furthering that industry here in the Valley. So it's been an exciting year to be able to see these projects come online, but we're always looking and we're always trying to provide the necessary infrastructure. We'll be busy in 2020 with other capital projects as well and significant investments. So if that will help our businesses grow, that helps us all. So we're excited to be able to do that.
Eddie, can you tell us how has the port adapted to the challenges of COVID-19?
Well, I will tell you that, let me begin by saying that, as a nation and as a government, we identified certain essential sectors of the U.S. economy that were critical to the lifeblood of this nation. And ports were identified as one of those essential services. And from the standpoint of serving the interest of not only the United States, but the interest of our trading partners, we obviously support cross-border trade. So we've continued to remain open and continue to have to support that effort. I will tell you that from that perspective, the port has not ceased or reduced operating hours because the commodity flow through the port has not changed. If anything, we've been just as busy this year as we were last year in terms of the number of vessel calls on the Port of Brownsville. Just as busy with the number of trucks, commercial trucks that are crossing the border and coming to the Port of Brownsville to move refined products or other commodities that are important to fuel the regional economy and the economy of northern Mexico. We continue to receive rail cars that are coming in from other parts of the United States and certainly coming and going into Mexico with commodities out of the port. So from that perspective, we've had to maintain our ability to service all that industry. Now, from changes that have been put in place, well, let me begin by saying that, we've taken, obviously, the advent of COVID-19 very seriously, as have many of our tenants and those that do work here in the process. So we've incorporated and continue to incorporate all of the recommendations that have put forth, whether it's through the CDC and other agencies as they relate to protecting staff, protecting our tenants, protecting our visitors, protecting everyone, whether it's on the waterfront, whether it's in the operations of the port, or certainly the administrations of the port. So all of those necessary procedures, canceling face-to-face meetings, no travel, social distancing, providing the necessary PPE to all our staff, practicing all of the protocols that are stressed and continuing to do that. We've structured our ability from a port perspective to continue to provide services where we can by staggering work schedules to limit people congregating in any one area. We've limited, we have people working at home where we can. Again, we've got staggered work schedules. So we've done everything that we can possibly do at this point to continue to practice those good measures and to certainly support our tenants. Until such time as there is a change in what may be affecting our country as it relates to reaction to COVID-19, the doors of the port and the operation of the port remain open. And so, fortunately, our tenants and our visitors have also taken it very seriously. I will tell everyone who may have a concern or question about foreign vessels coming into the port and foreign crew members coming into the port. Let me begin by saying that no vessel, whether it's domestic or foreign, just shows up at the Port of Brownsville. Particularly foreign vessels. Foreign vessels cannot enter the port without proper vetting and clearance, both by Custom and Border Protection and U.S. Coast Guard. And they are very vigilant in enforcing whatever measures necessary to protect our nation from COVID-19. If a member of the crew or anything is showing any symptoms or any concern related to COVID-19, those vessels cannot enter our port, and so they just don't. And once they do enter the port, foreign crew members are not allowed to get off the vessels. And many times they don't because they have work to do while they're in the port. So, that process is very, very heavily vetted and regulated. So we work very, very closely with the folks at Custom and Border Protection, with U.S. Coast Guard, and all of our tenants here at the port, as well as the folks that work on the waterfront, to ensure that we maintain all of the adequate necessary procedures in place to be able to serve those tenants. So everybody has worked very well. We've had no instances of any serious concerns. Where there's been instances of potential exposure, people have been quarantined the recommended periods of time, whether they work for the port or they work for someone else, or whether they, regardless of who they work for, those protocols have been, are in place and have been adhered to. So, and as you see what's going on in Cameron County, you can see that the number of cases and the number of diagnosed cases, and certainly much to the grief of our communities, the number of deaths has not peaked. So we still need to remain very vigilant and continue to practice those protocols until there is some aspect of assurance or some relief that we can begin to continue to relax those protocols. Until that happens, we will continue to follow all the protocols necessary.
And Mr. Campirano, that leads me to my next question. How has the overall activity at the port in regards to cargo volume, vessels, the trucks, and the road traffic been affected during the pandemic?
Well, I can tell you that if we compare the first quarter of this year with the first quarter of last year, and keep in mind that last year was a record year for us, both in terms of cargo and revenue, we are ahead of last year's pace. Again, vessel activity has been very, very good this year. We've had a significant number of deep draft vessels, not only with our steel trade, we're seeing resurgence of deep draft vessel calls for our liquid commodities trade, but really have seen a lot of activity on the wind component side. It seems like we almost have like 2 vessels a week coming into the port from all parts of the world, whether it's Asia, whether it's Russia, whether it's South America, whether it's Europe, bringing in nacelles, which essentially are the generators that are used to generate the electricity for the windmill projects, the blades, the cones, the tower sections. And that has been very, very good. Not only did we have a strong finish to 2019, but that's given us a great beginning to 2020. We also have a pretty diverse cargo mix. So it's not just wind blades, it's not just liquid commodities. It's also cement, bagged cement. It's also sugar. It's also scrap steel. So we have, it's also limestone, Vulcan, which is the largest operator in U.S. ports for aggregate and limestone, continues to come into the port to support efforts that are going on in the valley, construction efforts or efforts that are going on here at the port. So we aren't just dealing with heavily or we're concentrating on one commodity. It's a pretty good mix of commodities. And of course, that is very good for all of us. So for 2019 and again, continuing into 2020, vessel activity, fuels, cargo activity relates to loading rail cars. It fuels activity as it relates to commercial truck traffic. So we've seen all of that continue this year. I do believe where we have seen an impact of the pandemic is certainly going to be felt perhaps a little later in the year as we begin to see volumes reduce, simply because just like here in the United States, petroleum products such as gasoline and diesel are not being in demand in Mexico as they were last year. So as you see those inventories accumulate, you'll see a slowdown. Whether it's steel or any other commodity, that may be the case. We haven't really experienced it yet, but we may see it in the later on this year or beyond. But for the most part, probably the biggest impact has been on the projects that we've been working with that are on the board. Given the situation with the energy market, given the situation with the pandemic, whether it's some of the large projects we've been working on, or even some of the smaller ones with the expansion of the tank farms here inside the port and what have you. Well, those projects are going to probably get put on hold for a while until things recover. Market recovery, access to financial markets, access to just returning to the demand levels that we had prior to COVID-19. It's logical that some of those projects are going to have to weather those storms in order to come back. And so we're seeing some of that, but luckily it hasn't impacted us as it relates to the normal day-to-day activities of the port. And that's important because those are the jobs that need to be sustained in our community. And while some jobs have been impacted because of the drop in demand levels for certain refined products and certain activities, the activity at the port continues to be robust, and we see growth, and we're doing everything we can to be able to support that.
So, Eddie, Moody's Investor Service recently recognized the port for its strong financial resilience. What does that mean to the port and to the Brownsville's economy?
Well, what it means to the port is a lot of people for many years have been working very hard to put us in the position that we are today. And of course, that begins with the policy board, our board of commissioners. One of the things that, has been good is that, obviously we've had continuity. We've been able to continue on some of the long time projects that take time to mature, develop, and certainly that is also capital improvement plan. So a lot of people, like I said, have been working very hard to be able to put us in that position. So over the course of the last few years, the port has put itself in a position to accumulate revenue. Again, we're not a tax-dependent organization. While we do levy a tax, it's a minimal tax. It is used to retire existing debt, and whatever may be left over from that 3 cents, 3.5 cents per $100 of assessed valuation gets reinvested back into the port in terms of capital. So all of this growth has come from operating revenue growth. And so being able to have the finances on hand to make those capital improvements minimizes the reliance on having to look at debt. And so that speaks well of how the port has positioned itself. What's particularly important to us, and why we're very proud of how that report characterized the port, is that we're not being compared to the ports of our area or the region. We're up there with the big boys. Our comparison was with how do we fare in this time to deal with this situation compared to the port of Los Angeles or the port of Long Beach or the ports of South Carolina, which are Charleston and Savannah, Miami, Houston, New Orleans. And so this comparison speaks very well of the port. We rank third behind Hawaii and I believe Corpus as ports who have positioned themselves both in our operating model as a landlord port and our ability to be frugal and make strategic investments and have cash on hand to be able to deal with situations such as this pandemic. And so we're very proud of the fact that when they looked at all of those U.S. operating ports and how they ranked the Port of Brownsville, that speaks well of not only our area in terms of growth, but it also certainly speaks well of the leadership in the region and certainly the leadership with our board here at the Port of Brownsville. And so we're very proud to have been mentioned in that company and been compared to demonstrate that, hey, given the opportunity, this region can compete with anybody in the United States and can compete with anybody around the world. And we believe that strongly. We believe in our workforce. We believe in the talent of our region. And we believe of the can-do attitude of the region. And, we're proud to be a major provider and a major cog in what fuels the Rio Grande Valley's potential for future growth and existing growth. So we're excited about what the future holds. And we will hope that we will weather this pandemic and we'll come back even better and stronger than we were before.
And we're excited with you. Eddie, I know earlier this year we met and we talked about the port has the launch the port had just done. It's an exciting initiative aimed at offering greater educational opportunities for children living within the Brownsville Navigation District. Can you share with us your initiative?
Well, first and foremost, let me begin by, we work with every educational entity that was willing to work with as that relates to creating workforce opportunities. Whether it's the local public school districts, whether it's the private school districts, whether it's the local community college, the regional colleges, the UTRGV, everyone. Our doors are always open. We are not a service provider, and we don't hesitate to point big projects or people that are looking to those services to those individuals that do provide those services. Certainly commend and the work that the workforce boards are doing as well in helping to coordinate all of those efforts and activities. We do so. This year, we're particularly proud and really this is a board initiative. This is an initiative from the Board of Commissioners at the Navigation District here, the Port of Brownsville, to inaugurate a scholarship program aimed at all of the high schools, whether public or private, that serve the Brownsville Navigation District. And when we talk about the Brownsville Navigation District, it isn't just Brownsville. It's also Los Fresnos. It's also Rancho Viejo. It's also the southeast portions of Cameron County. So when you look at the region that we serve, the boundaries of the Navigation District, we identified 16 high schools that actually have graduating classes of seniors in 2020. Not only is that the 6 schools in the Brownsville Independent School District, but that's also Los Fresnos. There's also South Texas Independent School District in Rancho Viejo. We also have a lot of public charter schools now, much more than I realized. Not only do we have Idea Academy, you have Harmony, you have Jubilee, and then you have private high schools, St. Joseph's Academy, Valley Christian. We also have First Baptist. So out of all of those schools, there's actually 16 of them. And the initiative was to launch a scholarship program that would essentially provide 2 $1,000 scholarships to each of those schools for graduating seniors. And so We're very proud that we worked on that program. Again, as the initiative of the commission and the board, we work with the local school districts. We work with the local uh, s- uh, uh, other high schools, both the charters and the private, and put together a program. And so delighted that this year for the first time, 16 graduating seniors from all of these high schools are going to be recipients of a $1,000 scholarship that will help them as they pursue their education and their dreams. And again, many of these students will be staying local in the area. Others will be going out. But we're very, very excited to have launched that. We're very excited to get those announcements out, those notifications. The schools are aware of them. They were very important to us in selecting the students. Those awards have been announced effective today. So we're excited that we're doing this. These students are well deserved, and we're glad to be able to be part of that. So that's something that was a lot of fun to work on this year, and certainly something that we're very, very happy and excited and proud to be able to do.
Proud of the work that is being done, of course, by our Port of Brownsville and your leadership. I think that it's also very important to highlight that, through COVID-19, we've actually, seen how our community has come together. I think I keep on saying it all the time when we talk about, COVID-19, it's our city of Brownsville, our community as a whole, our region has come together, and we really understand now more than ever the true meaning of being resilient. This has not stopped us, our businesses, of course, our leaders, of thinking of the future. And with this new initiative of supporting our very young leaders, with financial assistance to really continue their journey and their dreams, accomplish their dreams, it's also very important that I think that we share the message that class of 2020 makes us very proud. Their true resilience, their way of adapting to the situation. I think this proves that the best is yet to come for this great young leaders, and they have the support of, as a whole, of our community, and of course the support of Port of Brownsville. Is there a message that you would like to relay to these young leaders that are graduating class of 2020?
Well, let me say is that we don't know what the new normal is going to be. Obviously, that's something we're all learning as we go forward. But you said something that before I kind of say about what these new future leaders of our community are going to be doing, this more than ever is just as important to support our local businesses, support our local efforts. You may not be ready to go and sit in a restaurant, but you certainly can go and pick up food at a restaurant. Support our local shop owners. We need to do what is necessary to make sure that if we're doing well, that those around us are doing well, and we do need to if we're going to come together as a community, supporting the city, supporting the county, supporting the businesses, we all need to work together, and we need to continue that. For our this has been a year of obviously many changes for a lot of people, and the new normal for a graduating class of 2020 is nothing but the new normal. And so they've missed out on some wonderful opportunities and some wonderful memories of, the best year in school one ever had. And many of us might be characterized as our senior years. But it's also the beginning of a journey. Education is a lifelong process. As we went through this program and read many of the essays the students read, and also reviewed their resumes and how they articulated so well what their aspirations and dreams are, or what hardships they've exposed, or how they are grateful for all of those around them that have helped them succeed. I have nothing but the greatest of respect for these students, and I know that these future leaders are going to be successful in their own right. The thing I would tell them is don't pursue your dreams. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it, but you're going to need to work hard. And these kinds of students that are the ones that are going to excel, they're already high achievers. They already have much busier schedules than many of us do. And so continue doing what they're doing. Don't let anybody tell them that they can't pursue their dreams. Work hard, but never stop. And don't forget where you came from. Many of you, we hope that you will come back to our region, that you will come back to our communities and serve as the inspiration to us, as the future leaderships to us, and and not only learn, but come back and teach us all how to be a better community and how to be a better world. And so it's exciting. Commend all of those students, those that have been recognized and just simply those that have achieved, but don't give up. High school diploma is important, it's necessary, but so is some college, the technical schools, learning a trade. All of those things are critical. And if you're going to have to support a family, if you're going to have to do those kinds of things, you need to, this is not the beginning of the end, it's just the beginning of a new beginning. And we all need to do our best to support these students, whether it's the class of 2020 or whether it's the class of 2030. We all need to be supporting these students.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campirano, for those kind words. And I know they're greatly appreciated by those that are, of course, viewing this, and also those that, are part of our membership, and of course our constituents. This message not only goes to the students, but it goes to the parents, it goes to the educators. I think, COVID-19 has really been an eye-opening experience for many. At many times we have the tendency of taking our educators for granted, our parents, what they do. And I think this has really allowed us to understand, what our educators do every single day. Also those parents that are working from home and also being teachers at the same time. So it has been a great experience for all. And I think, again, at the end of the day, it only makes us better and stronger. So with that said, we do have some questions. I think we still have a couple of minutes left, Mr. Campirano, as we want to honor, your time. We know you have another commitment soon after ours. One of the questions that came in through our Zoom is as follows. They're asking what percentage of cargo has been affected this first quarter in comparison of 2019?
Well, again, I think that from a cargo perspective for the first quarter of 2020 versus 2019, the impact has been positive. Actually, we've moved more cargo during this quarter than we did the first quarter of 2019. What I will tell you is the mix of commodities may have changed somewhat. We're not seeing, the steel is not as robust as we have seen, the liquid commodities also, but it's been made up for in the wind components. It's been made for up in some of the other markets that we serve. But as a whole, our cargo stats for the first quarter of 2020 are above the first quarter of 2019. Will that remain for the rest of the year? We hope so. But at the end of the day, we may be running into what we will see in some of this changes that have occurred in the last few months. We do know that there will be some time to catch up with some of the activities, whether it's the refined product market or the steel market. But as consumer demand comes back, so will these activities. But at this point, we're excited with the 2019 or the 2020 comparison to 2019. It's actually better than the first quarter. So we hope that trend continues, but we watch it with all of our commodities. And while they haven't ceased, we have seen, we will always see peaks and valleys in our cargo movement, but on the whole, it's looking very good.
Eddie, and another question that came in, the port's getting ready for a cruise ship. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I will tell you that, cruise ships are Probably one of the hardest hits right now. In fact, I think you can get some really good deals on cruises whenever they do come back. But at the end of the day, that is a project that has been discussed and on the board. And that's a project that will only succeed if it's going to have a strong regional support. We have the infrastructure in terms of a channel, and we have the infrastructure, where a cruise ship can come in and out of the Port of Brownsville. But the infrastructure to support a cruise ship operation is a lot. Cruise terminals, supporting the movement of people in and out of the region. You have to have sufficient airlift to be able to move thousands of people coming into your area at one day for boarding a cruise and other people leaving after having been ending a cruise. So there's a lot of things that need to go right in that respect. I think that the effort that is being put forth right now by the county and the folks on the island looking at cruises as it relates to, maybe it's too aggressive to think that you can be a home port like a Galveston. Galveston has got the market pretty cornered for Texas. However, can the area be an itinerary? Can it be a stop in an itinerary? I think that's a very good approach, but even with that, there's still a lot of work that needs to happen. That effort is ongoing, but only time will tell. And certainly the recovery of the cruise industry for this pandemic is going to be paramount. That may push those kinds of activities back a year or two, but is there a population that can support a cruise? If you look at a 250-mile radius, a 500-mile radius, yes, but there has to be a lot of infrastructure in place to be able to support that entire operation. And so, that work is being looked at. We obviously have access to the Gulf, and so time will tell how that project will mature and whether or not it will materialize in the future.
We're always excited to hear about the great things happening at our ports. And again, we can't really, stress enough the support that the port, of course, provides to our community, to our businesses, and of course, to their local chamber. Mr. Campirano, we want to thank you for your time. We know that you're definitely one of the busiest men in the area, and your time is very important and valuable to us. We appreciate the continued support to your local chamber. We appreciate you, giving us the opportunity to continue to collaborate directly with our incoming, chairman of the board, Mr. Tony Rodriguez. We're excited, to have him continue to serve on our board. And before we adjourn, I do want to, acknowledge the great team at the port, of course. Behind the scenes, we have Jorge and Jamie and Tony. No one can really see what's happening. We can. And, on our end, we have Danielle, our director of marketing and programs. They are the ones that make this, a success. They're the ones that make this all possible. I do want to thank them on behalf, of course, of our leadership and, our chairwoman too, for being present today and taking the time to join us. Do know that, again, we appreciate all that you do. We appreciate the impact that you bring to our community, the thousands of jobs, that the Port of Brownsville brings annually. And most importantly, we're excited to hear the future projects and what's to come. Thank you for, thinking of our future leaders and being able to give those, 32 scholarships to 16 different high schools throughout the region that will impact the future of their education. Chairwoman, is there anything else before we adjourn?
I've always told you, Eddie, thank you for your passion. You make us all passionate about our port, our region. Thank you for your leadership. You're always at the forefront, ready to help, and we want to thank you for that. We take great pleasure to say we are part of the port, and we work very closely with y'all, and we hope to continue working with you.
Thank you all. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. And thank you to all those that have, of course, joined us today. We continue to invite you to contact your local chamber. We have a call center in partnership with both of our EDCs, with our GBEG and BCIC for the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation and the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, and in support, of course, with our City of Brownsville, we've had the ability to create a call center to assist small businesses during COVID-19. We ask that you call us directly at 956-542-4341. We have 5 agents that are 100% dedicated to answer your doubts, to educate you of the different opportunities your business has in regards to financial assistance, being federal, state, or local. Do know that we at your chamber continue to work for you directly and indirectly. We're here to support the sustainability of your business, but we cannot do it alone. We are grateful for our community partners such as the Port of Brownsville that continuously supports our initiatives and our programs and projects. So with that said, we want to thank everyone once again. Continue to follow us on our social media platforms. If you haven't yet, you can like us, like our page, Brownsville Chamber, through Facebook. We do have an Instagram and also a LinkedIn. Mr. Campirano, we wish you a wonderful afternoon and thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you.